Amazing discovery, millionaire hires a cleaner and uncovers her hidden inheritance worth millions. Anne Thompson scrubbed the gleaming marble floors of Jonathan Reed's mansion, her muscles aching from days of relentless labor. The opulence surrounding her was suffocating, the extravagant chandeliers, the endless array of gourmet kitchen appliances. Each corner whispered of wealth, a stark contrast to her modest apartment on the outskirts of the prestigious neighborhood where she barely scraped by, raising her two young children, Alyssa and Benjamin. The sheer disparity fueled her fierce determination. She couldn't afford to falter. Yet, as her mind drifted amid the furniture polish and gleaming surfaces, doubt gnawed at her. Her connection deepened with each swipe of the cloth, each organized file. Jonathan was more than just a tech mogul, he became a distant reflection of what might have been a life untouched by financial fear. Their daily exchanges shifted from polite nods to probing conversations, filled with questions about dreams and fears that echoed in the hushed tones of the polished office. As she rearranged chaotic papers, Anne's hidden intellect flickered to life. But rather than being praised, her burgeoning talents made her anxious. She hesitated, wondering if she was overstepping her bounds. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amid the cluttered office, a discovery awaited. Long-forgotten documents that hinted at an inheritance, an undiscovered legacy shrouded in whispers of her family's past. As she flipped through yellowed papers and saw her father's name scrawled across unfamiliar contracts, her heart raced with conflicting emotions. Excitement and fear danced within her. Would claiming this wealth uproot everything she believed in? At what cost would she embrace this newfound fortune? The values of hard work and grit formed the core of her identity, but the allure of a fresh start tugged insistently at her. Could she truly face the unknown? With each passing day, Jonathan's admiration for her tenacity grew. And could see it in his eyes, the well of respect he was beginning to form for her resilience and unyielding spirit. In return, she found herself captivated by the personal side he revealed. Outside the relentless world of tech, they shared quiet moments that cracked her sense of isolation. Yet, the gap between their lives felt enormous, pressures stirring inside her, creating a whirlpool of disquiet that threatened to drown her reason. The joy of discovery was overshadowed by an impending doom. If she stepped closer to this wealth, what would she lose of herself? Then, the moment came. A faded photograph slipped from the folders, revealing faces she had barely recognized as family. A fleeting glance at their smiles ignited emotions within her long buried and forgotten. And as she stood, paralyzed by the implications of her find, a knock on the door jolted her from her spiraling thoughts. Who could it be? With her heart racing and mind whirring, she braced for whatever revelation awaited her. Would it deepen her confusion or release her from the bonds of her past? The questions loomed, thick in the air, begging for answers as she stood at the precipice of change, the weight of two very different worlds pressing heavily on her shoulders. And took a deep breath, her heart hammering in her chest as she opened the door, half expecting a colleague, but finding Jonathan instead. His presence filled the doorway, casting a long shadow across the room. "And," he said, his voice a mix of curiosity and concern. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." The duality of her feelings coiled tightly within her. While their conversations grew more comfortable, this encounter seemed to blend the professional and personal in a way that scared her. She felt vulnerable standing there, the weight of her discovery still heavy on her conscience. "Not at all," she replied, trying to maintain an air of calm despite her racing thoughts. "I was just organizing." He stepped inside, and she instinctively shifted to hide the documents resting on her desk. He was perceptive. She could feel him analyzing the room as he strode in, his keen eyes catching every detail. "You've been working hard. I think I've seen my desk become less cluttered thanks to you." His smile, warm and genuine, thawed some of her initial apprehension. Yet, a flicker of fear ignited. How could she allow this connection to deepen when her past was clawing at her consciousness? "Thank you," she said softly, wishing she could feel gratitude without the impending fear it evoked. The thought of her potential inheritance contorted her insides. Would she be a different person if she claimed it? Would it change how Jonathan saw her? "Can we talk for a minute?" "I have something I want to discuss," Jonathan said, pulling her from her internal turmoil. There was a seriousness in his tone that she couldn't ignore. "Of course," she said, gesturing to a sleek armchair opposite her desk. As he settled into it, she felt the room constrict around them. The walls seemed to close in, amplifying their conversation. "Lately, I've been thinking I know this isn't the conventional way to do things, but your work caught my eye," he started, his gaze steady on hers. "I understand the tech landscape and have been searching for someone to help bridge a gap with customers, a role that's part project management and part customer relations. And honestly, I see you as a perfect fit." The suggestion crashed over her like a tidal wave. This was more than a cleaning position, it demanded skills she had never believed she possessed. "Me?" she stammered, her voice trembling. "I am not sure I'm qualified for that." The weight of her hesitation hung in the air, a testament to her self-doubt. "I believe you are. You analyze and strategize with a depth I've rarely seen," he said, his sincerity laced with conviction. "I wouldn't offer you this without knowing you could succeed." His endorsement ignited something deep within her, a flickering flame of ambition that had long been stifled by practicality and fear. But the road ahead appeared daunting. What if she failed? What if claiming this leap toward professional growth jeopardized her fragile balance between motherhood and work? But she hesitated again, the old comfort of cleaning and order wrestling with the chaos of possibility. "What about my situation?" Jonathan leaned forward, his expression softening. "Nothing changes that you're an incredible mother. This could enhance your life and your children's. Your experiences offer you insight that few others have." His words resonated, igniting a fire she hardly recognized. It was clear she stood on the brink of a decision that might either pave the way to a brighter future or push her deeper into uncertainty. Yet, did she have the right to change the momentum of her life so drastically? As reality wrapped around her, she realized that this opportunity mirrored her struggle with the inheritance. Both demanded she embrace parts of herself she had hidden away. "Take some time to think it over," Jonathan suggested, his voice grounding her swirling thoughts. "I won't pressure you, but I do believe you can do this." She nodded slowly, yet uncertainty loomed heavier than before. The photograph of her family flashed in her mind, the weight of what she had discovered pressing back against the hope flaring within. As he left the room, the door clicked shut, echoing in her ears like a bell tolling for a journey she had to confront. Could she reconcile these two paths, the safe and familiar with the vast unknown? The question hung suspended in the air, enveloping her with the emerging sense that the time had come for her to face her deepest fears. Would she step onto this new road or cower in the shadows of her past? With resolve forming in her heart, she thought of both her children and the legacy waiting to be claimed, knowing a choice awaited that would define her identity forever. The tension thrummed in her, urging her onwards as she pondered her next move. What was she willing to sacrifice for the life she secretly desired? And sat at her desk, the remnants of Jonathan's visit still fresh in her mind. The corner of her workspace that had once felt so comforting now felt suffocating, as if the papers and pens had transformed into barriers, keeping her from her potential. The idea of stepping into a role that transcended her current duties flickered tantalizingly before her, yet it was overwhelmed by an avalanche of self-doubt. Her heart raced as she replayed his words, "I believe you are." Those simple affirmations acted as a double-edged sword. On one side, they offered her a glimpse of capability and respect, on the other, they loomed like a daunting challenge. The notion of tackling project management and customer relations entailed skills she had never formally acquired. Taking a deep breath, she looked around the room filled with familiarity. The sight of a tattered family photo caught her eye, its edges frayed, but the smiles forever captured radiant. They were innocently unaware of her turmoil. The yearning to transform her life collided fiercely with her obligations as a mother, the tension spiraling into an urgent need for clarity. But how would her responsibilities as a mother survive if she accepted Jonathan's offer? Would she have the energy to balance both worlds? Her internal narrative was a loop, doubting if she could effectively juggle her children's needs with the demands of a new job. The idea of inheritance crossed her mind again. Could claiming that wealth be the key to unlocking her potential, or would it bind her to a legacy she didn't feel prepared to inherit? Responsibility loomed, a ghost she couldn't shake off. After all, the fate of her family structure rested on her decisions. The thought made her stomach churn. Resolutely, she stood up and began to rearrange her desk. Each item she placed in its new position mirrored a shift in her mindset, a commitment to not only organizing her environment but also clarifying her goals. She sought out her notepad and began jotting down her thoughts, brainstorming possible pathways and justifying each point with triumphant notes echoing Jonathan's confidence. A plan emerged. Accepting the job might mean seeking help with her children after school hours or hiring a babysitter for the weekends. Perhaps collaborating with her mother, who had offered assistance before, could restore some balance. She could set boundaries with her time to ensure that career goals did not obliterate her role at home. As she jotted bullet points, assess my skills, talk to Jonathan, explore childcare options, the tension began to dissipate. Each small action felt like a step toward empowerment. She envisioned the conversations she could have with Jonathan, perhaps probing more about the role, asking what collaboration would look like. His belief in her opened a door she hadn't realized was closed. However, just as self-assuredness grew, so did a shadow of doubt. Would she risk losing the slight foothold she had? The relationship with her children had been built on consistency. How would they respond to their mother suddenly thrust into a new world? What if she wasn't enough? And hesitated, breath heavy in her chest. Each new decision she contemplated carried weight, reflecting her desire for growth yet encumbered by fear. Engaging with Jonathan, even considering sharing her ambitions, could shatter the walls she had built to protect herself. Yet, if she didn't pursue this possibility, would she remain part of a life limited by old constraints? What if embracing her growth brought not just success but inspiration to her children? The thought struck against her determination. Wasn't that worth striving for? With newfound clarity, she understood the time for decisions loomed like an approaching storm. The future remained opaque, filled with possibility and trepidation. As she tucked the notepad away, she realized that this was more than an opportunity. It was a pivotal moment to reshape not only her future but also to redefine her understanding of herself. And as she glanced out the window, contemplating the new roads before her, the faintest trace of courage settled in. But what awaited her outside this room remained a question marked by potential conflict and growth. But would she dare to claim it, knowing the ideal of her past clashed with the promise of her future? The hourglass slipped ever forward, and the choices awaiting her grew heavier in urgency. And awoke the next morning to an inevitable decision pressing on her spirit, as tangible as the weight of the blanket that enveloped her. Sunlight danced through the curtains, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air, an unexpected reminder of the world waiting outside her sanctuary. She slid into her slippers, the floor cool beneath her feet, curious about the potential ahead, like fate extending an invitation she was hesitant to accept. Pulling up a chair to the kitchen table, she poured herself a cup of coffee, the familiar aroma tugging at her senses, grounding her in the present moment. But with each sip, she encountered an undercurrent of anxiety, the swirl of possibilities and consequences bringing an uncomfortable tightness to her chest. What would Jonathan ask of her? Was she prepared to navigate a realm that felt foreign, dissected by sharp thoughts of inadequacy? Reassurances echoed in her mind, but they battled against the chaos of uncertainty. Flicking through her mental checklist, she reminded herself she had already begun to chart a course. Assess my skills, she recalled, a deceptively simple task that belied the depth of introspection it would require. That idea sparked a flame, igniting a curiosity about what capacities lay waiting within her. Perhaps it was time to confront the shadow lurking in her mind, the nagging whisper that suggested she wasn't cut out for anything beyond her current life. Time to face down those doubts, she muttered under her breath, determined as she gathered her papers, staring at them as if they might speak back. The first step came easily. She drafted a list, not of potential job titles or tasks but rather her personal accomplishments. Organized events at her children's school, volunteer work in the community, managing her household while ensuring love was present. These were not insignificant feats. They were the very foundation upon which she could build. As she pulled out a fresh sheet of paper, her mind turned to the meeting with Jonathan, a fateful encounter she had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure. What if she laid bare her aspirations, opening herself to the prospect of transformation? Could she frame her fears as conversation starters rather than roadblocks? The possibilities quickened her pulse. Rather than allow panic to dictate her choices, she decided to embrace them but with intention. She'd create an agenda for their meeting, articulate her concerns, express her aspirations, and clarify what support she might need. The prospect of collaboration suddenly felt less imposing and more like a chance for partnership. The clock chosen for that morning pressed forward, drawing her back to the reality of time slipping away. She needed to prep her children for the day ahead, folding into the comforting rhythm of breakfast chaos. As they gathered around the table, she marveled at the strength that surged within her. Each giggle and grumble from her kids a reminder of why she sought change, why she was ready to leap into the unknown. But beneath her encouragement, worry festered. What would happen if they felt abandoned? Would this newfound pursuit be perceived as selfish? The laughter stung with a hint of discord, echoing the conflict brewing in her heart. The tension twisted around her, constricting her breath, until she understood balancing her desires against the love she poured into her family could yield unpredicted rewards. Was it unfair to think a mother could pursue her dreams while tending to her children? The remnants of her mother's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to strive for happiness. And took a steadying breath, the resolve breaking free from the chains of doubt. Once the children were off to school, she stood by the window, watching the bus pull away, her heart pounding in her chest. Boldness surged within her, almost like a rush of adrenaline, each breath ushered with a determination she had long suppressed. Perhaps Jonathan's faith in her was not misplaced after all. Clutching her notepad, she felt the urge to call him right. Then, but hesitated. The moment of truth was approaching, yet the echoes of concerns lingered like a hesitant specter. Did she dare to seize the opportunity bravely? Was it time to lean into the unknown and confront the possibilities ahead, or was she destined to remain the cautious observer? The door to her destiny loomed ajar, revealing a world she may never have thought was meant for her. Would she cross the threshold, or would she step back, yielding to the familiar lull of her past? The silence of her home weighed heavily in the aftermath of the school bus's departure, an echo of her swirling thoughts. And paced the kitchen, the click of her slippers against the tile punctuating the air. The coffee pot hissed as it settled, leaving her alone with the remnants of her courage and doubt. With each measured step, her resolve wavered. What if Jonathan had envisioned someone else for the role? Did he really see the potential she struggled to recognize in herself? But deep down, a tumultuous wave surged. The need to confront these fears motivated her. It felt like a paradox, a promise of freedom intertwined with the fear of failure. Sliding into a corner of the couch, she pulled her notepad close. This would be different from her previous lists. This was more profound, a catalogue of her passion ignited by an unexpected moment of inner clarity. She mapped her desires, each word displacing fragments of self-doubt, collaborative projects in the community, developing practical skills through coursework, encouraging children to follow their passions without restriction. Each bullet point took root within her, a foundation upon which she could build not just her career, but a veritable legacy. A knock at the door broke her concentration. A routine delivery, perhaps. Shaken from her introspection, she rose and opened the door. Her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, stood with a warm smile and a dish of freshly baked cookies, a small offering of community. Anne's bleak mood softened momentarily at the sight, but the weight returned swiftly. "Just thought you might need a treat, Anne. You're always so busy," Mrs. Chen exclaimed, her kindness transmuting into an unexpected spark of realization. Perhaps it wasn't merely the pursuit of career advancement, perhaps it was a way to show her children that balance and ambition could coexist. "Thank you. You're right, I've been a bit lost in my thoughts lately," she responded, glancing at the cookies, the warmth of the interaction kindling a flicker of hope within her. "You know, my daughter spent some time volunteering at our local shelter. Maybe you could follow that route? You have such good energy, people are drawn to you," Mrs. Chen suggested casually, but the words ignited a greater contemplation in Anne's mind. What if she combined her work aspirations with community involvement? The conversation shifted something in her, revealing inklings of her capabilities she had yet to embrace. As Mrs. Chen departed, and returned to her paperwork, scribbling down ideas that intertwined personal fulfillment with professional aspirations, she paused, reflecting on her past experiences, every event she organized, every meeting she chaired. Moments previously tucked away as mere duties began to glimmer, revealing themselves as instances of leadership. Could these experiences be capitalized upon? The idea felt exhilarating, sparking a newfound confidence she hadn't anticipated. There was a moment when she realized it wasn't solely about overcoming fear but also about recognizing her own worth. Leaning back, she closed her eyes briefly, envisioning her conversation with Jonathan. What if she opened with her newfound concepts, the blend of her aspirations, skills, and actual experiences instead of playing the questioning card? Each imagined exchange built a sense of agency and anticipation. But the looming question remained: was she prepared to unfold both her vulnerabilities and strengths in front of someone she barely knew? A thought surfaced, exposing her multifaceted self would not merely reveal a career but might also forge a deeper connection to who she truly was. Clutching her notebook tighter, she took a deep breath. With every tick of the clock, inevitability crept closer. Perhaps preparation wouldn't merely shield her, perhaps it would empower her, offering her strengths to those seeking them. The door to her next chapter creaked open, inviting her to either step through or remain in the safety of what she had always known. Was she ready to embrace not just change for herself but the impact it could have on her family and community? With the meeting with Jonathan looming closer, she felt it growing confidence mingled with instinctual doubt. It was time to fully uncover who she was meant to be, and as she reached for her phone to finally make that call, the question clawed at her heart: could she reveal everything she had hidden, or would this unmasking amplify her fears? The ticking clock echoed in the quiet living room, a relentless reminder that time was slipping away. Each tick propelled Anne deeper into contemplating her forthcoming conversation with Jonathan. The weight of her own expectations pressed against her chest, a palpable mix of anxiety and anticipation swirling within. If she opened up about her aspirations, would she risk vulnerability, or would it forge the very connection she yearned for? The prospect of revealing her truth ignited conflicting emotions. On one hand, she envisioned presenting herself as a candidate bursting with untapped potential, a woman not just defined by her roles as a mother and homemaker but a leader poised to make significant contributions. On the other hand, the fear of exposing her insecurities loomed large, threatening to quell her drive before it even blossomed. She took another deep breath, the essence of freshly brewed coffee filling her senses as she turned to her notepad once more. She listed down her skills: event planning, communication, problem-solving, each note a stepping stone laid towards her intended path. These were not mere pastimes, they were markers of competence that built her identity, all waiting to be shared and valued. Anne's newfound clarity began to paint a vivid scenario of her meeting. She would not approach Jonathan as a hopeful outsider but as an experienced contributor, ready to reshape her narrative. Every phrase she practiced in the mirror aimed to encapsulate her growth. So why did doubt still manage to creep in? Perhaps it was the residue of a life spent in the shadows of other successes, measuring herself against external benchmarks. Glancing at her children's drawings hanging on the refrigerator, a surge of resolve washed over her. They expected this from her, a role model who would chase dreams without hesitation. The sacrifices she made for them must also encompass the affirmation that they could pursue their own ambitions, no matter the initial barriers. Yet as the familiar hum of the day began to settle, a flicker of doubt burned brightly. What if Jonathan was indifferent to her ideas? What if he found her aspirations trivial? Those questions tore at her confidence, unraveling the cohesion she had worked hard to build. This wasn't just about her, it was also about giving her children a chance to see the stakes of taking risks anchored with purpose. Suddenly, in the midst of her tumultuous thoughts, a new notion emerged: she didn't have to be perfect, she just had to be authentic. This was the crossroads, the choice between presenting an idealized version of herself or being raw and relatable with all her imperfections. The splintered road of self-discovery was a messy one filled with real emotions and scars, but it was hers. The clock struck 11 as she fidgeted with her phone, contemplating a text to Jonathan that would confirm their meeting. In doing so, she enforced a pact with herself: this was her moment. She would embrace both her strengths and uncertainties. They were parts of a tapestry she had yet to fully weave. But before she could make that move, her phone buzzed with an incoming notification. It was an email, subject line, opportunity to collaborate. A grin attempted to break through her anxious demeanor, yet curiosity took precedence. What if this was the key to enhancing her role, a stepping stone to unwittingly aligning her direction with Jonathan's expectations? A glimmer of hope sparked within the depths of uncertainty, urging her to open the message. With tentative fingers, she clicked into the email, the words beckoning her into a new realm of possibilities. As she read the lines that reeled her in, someone was extending a hand, seeking out her unique touch for an initiative that deserved her skills. Could this be the confidence booster she needed before her meeting? Just then, the reality rushed in, mingling with the excitement of uncharted territory. The meeting with Jonathan loomed within grasp, yet now, shimmering before her was an unexpected detour that could unravel deeper truths. And potential. Would she seize this opportunity to transform her career landscape or let doubt quench her aspirations once more? The uncertainty lingered like a storm cloud overhead as she weighed her next move. The question remained: was she truly ready for the path unfolding before her? And as heart raced as she absorbed the content of the email, each word echoing with both promise and fear. The initiative invited her to lend her expertise in event management, a task that felt both thrilling and daunting. Was this really the opportunity she had been waiting for? The implications were immense: a chance to showcase her skills on a broader platform and prove to both herself and Jonathan that she was more than a stay-at-home mom. Yet, insecurities held her captive. What if she miscalculated her ability? What if this was just another moment where her aspirations unraveled before she could solidify them? She scrolled back to the beginning of the email, letting her eyes linger on the phrase unique touch. Her unique touch. Did they truly see something in her that was valuable? At that moment, she sensed a shift within herself, a yearning to transform from doubt to action. How could she fully accept this opportunity if she still clung to an old identity? No longer could she allow fear to dictate her choices. This was a chance to marry her personal ambitions with something real and tangible. Taking a deep breath, Anne closed her eyes, envisioning the meeting with Jonathan. Would he notice a newfound spark in her demeanor? Would he see her come alive in a way she had never allowed herself to be in professional settings? Today wasn't just about a career, it was a pivotal juncture demanding courage and authenticity. She picked up her phone and started typing a response to the email, her fingers shaking slightly. It was time to accept what she could do. With every message she framed, she infused her excitement and latent authority. She was more than capable, she was ready. Beneath that professional veneer, however, fear still flickered, a reminder of what she could lose if she failed. The words hadn't yet left her fingertips when she hesitated. The hesitation felt familiar, an unwanted friend. What if I am stretched too thin? She questioned, the internal conflict making her pause. Yet a powerful realization struck her: she couldn't afford to shy away from this path any longer. Her children, with their honest expectations of her, depended on her honoring her aspirations. They needed to see her courage in action, both for their sake and her own. This wasn't just about the job or the email, this was about constructing a future that they could look up to. With renewed determination, she pressed send. The email whooshed away, a small but definitive step toward reclaiming her professional identity. As the notification confirmed it was sent, and felt a little weight lift, replaced by a bubbling sense of possibility. Her next move was crucial. She had promised to meet Jonathan, and now there was a palpable urgency to do it with vigor. This meeting could no longer serve as a mere display of her desires, it had to become a declaration of her readiness to change the trajectory of her life. Stepping away from the kitchen counter, infusing her space with deliberate movement, she began preparing for that meeting. Each task, from brushing her hair to selecting the perfect outfit, became not just a routine, but a ritual. Fragments of her previous persona started coming together as she played pretend in front of the mirror, channeling the vision of the capable woman she was transitioning into. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting, anticipation swelled within her. She was confident. No more would and drown beneath the weight of uncertainty. She was a mother, a professional, and now as she prepared to share her unique insights, she was becoming an architect of her own journey. But the turning point came with an unexpected phone call, a voice from her past that could challenge everything she believed she had moved beyond. "Anne?" The voice crackled, fraught with once familiar tensions. "I need to talk to you." The news could change everything, and she was left grappling with the looming question: would facing this old conflict strengthen her resolve or threaten to derail all she'd just built? And held her breath, the voice on the other end bringing a rush of memories she had worked tirelessly to leave behind. The familiarity both comforted and unsettled her. It was Clara, a former colleague from the event planning firm where Anne first made her mark in the industry. "I need to talk to you," Clara repeated, her tone heavy with unspoken implications. "What is going on?" Anne managed to respond, her voice steadier than her pulse. Clara took a moment before revealing the purpose of her call. "There's been a development with the project I'm working on. It's complicated, but I think you'd want to know." Each word felt like a pull back into a world Anne had wrestled to escape, a reminder of the ambitions she had shelved away while raising her children. Could she risk bringing this past uncertainty into her present, especially now that she was trying to build a new identity? As Clara spoke about the potential new project that could benefit from Anne's unique touch, and listened intently, her mind racing through the implications of re-entering a world that once filled her with passion but also stress. Was this really an opportunity, or a stepping stone back to the insecurities she was trying to shed? Just as she was processing this, the memories came flooding back: late nights fueled by caffeine, the stress of tight deadlines, and the thrill that came from success mixed with a sense of overwhelm. Had she truly outgrown that version of herself? With resolve, Anne interrupted Clara, "I appreciate the offer, but I'm in the middle of something new. I'm not looking to take on more than I can handle right now." The words required effort, they felt like a declaration of her boundaries, a solidifying of her resolve to focus on her present ambitions rather than being pulled into a past that felt both alluring and dangerous. Silence stretched between them. It was Clara who first broke it, her tone tinged with disappointment. "I understand, but this could change everything for you. I wouldn't be calling if it wasn't important." There it was, the tantalizing promise that her old life could be rekindled, the insinuation that her past talents could launch her back into the spotlight. But Anne felt a flicker of something deeper. She recognized that old spark of ambition but juxtaposed it with the urgency of her current situation. "Clara, I'll think about it," she said, uncertain yet determined. The conversation ended, but Anne was left in a tumult of thoughts. A documentary playing softly in the background, she tried to ground herself in the present, but her mind kept churning back to her decision. Did Clara's call signify an opportunity to reclaim her pre-motherhood dreams, or was it simply a distraction from the path she had just begun to forge anew? Her meeting with Jonathan loomed on the horizon. Would he understand her struggles? Would he support her desire to engage fully in this unstable venture? Her pulse quickened at the thought of sharing the news, the possibilities, and yet the nagging fear that once settled would soon tighten its grip again. Shaking off the chaotic thoughts, and stood and walked to the window, trying to refocus. The sun dipped below the horizon and painted the room in hues of warm gold. This was her new beginning. If she was going to confront Clara's offer and potentially step back into the industry, it had to be purposeful, not impulsive. Staring into the fading light, a radical realization washed over her: she could blend her ambition and her new identity. This time, every choice would reflect who she truly was and what she wanted to become. As a hint of evening chill filled the air, an idea began to crystallize: a plan to navigate both old and new worlds on her own terms. But a single text message interrupted her thoughts. "Have you heard what Clara's up to? It could change everything." The looming question now resided within her: was she really ready for the whirlwind of possibilities, and what if this was just the beginning of a far greater conflict? And sat at her dining table, the light from an overhead lamp illuminating a cluster of papers scattered around her. Each document represented a small step toward crafting her new life, but Clara's call replayed in her mind like an unanswered question. She absent-mindedly tapped her pen against the table, each tap syncing with the chaotic rhythm of her thoughts. The opportunity Clara mentioned felt like a magnet, pulling at her past and highlighting the ambitions she'd put aside. She had painstakingly built a stable life, but now a shadow of doubt encircled her. Were her new pursuits merely a distraction from the person she used to be? With her meeting with Jonathan approaching, Anne felt a surge of urgency. Her heart raced as she reminded herself of her goals. She had wanted to explore her own potential, to step into a more defined role as an independent woman. Jonathan had been supportive, but would he embrace her need for something more challenging? Anne pulled out a notebook, flipping its pages to recount her recent achievements. She had returned to the workforce, begun creating a small client list for her new venture, and even started a series of blog posts about home organization. The feedback had been encouraging. Her work resonated with others. Still, it was a world where she had established herself gradually, unlike the frenetic pace of her earlier career. Just as she began to write out constructive thoughts about balancing her life, the doorbell rang. For a heartbeat, she considered ignoring it, but curiosity propelled her to the door. Standing outside was Jonathan, disheveled and breathless, as if he'd just hurtled through rush-hour traffic for her. "Hey, sorry to just drop by," he said, stepping in. "I needed to see you." His sincerity and focus were palpable as he crossed the threshold. "I was thinking about our last conversation, about supporting each other's dreams. I hope you know that I'm here for whatever path you choose." That declaration settled into her, offering a sliver of relief. With Jonathan's encouragement vibrantly present, she felt the weight of her internal conflict shift slightly. "I got a call from Clara today," she confessed, careful but open. "She has a project she thinks I could help her with." John's brow furrowed, and he took a step closer. "What do you think? Is it really something you want?" "I don't know," she admitted, feeling raw and exposed. "It's complicated. It makes me question everything I've been building here." She gestured around their home, symbolizing the stability she had fought for after years of prioritizing family over her own aspirations. He watched her silently, the tension in the air thickening as he processed her words, then replied, "If this is about rediscovering the person you used to be, isn't that an exciting opportunity? But if you're hesitant, then maybe it's not right for you." His candidness was refreshing, a comforting reminder that she did not have to shoulder this burden alone. "What if I lose control of this new direction I've taken?" She wondered aloud, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "Finding balance often comes at a cost," he noted thoughtfully. "But isn't that the point of reclaiming your identity? You should try risk-taking even when it's frightening can yield the most meaningful results." His words stirred something within her. She had been running from the notion of risk, yet it was the very essence of growth. The confrontation between past dreams and present realities danced in her mind. After a long, contemplative silence, Anne decided to take a proactive step. I think I'll reach out to Clara. Determine if the project aligns with my current vision. It's time to confront this head-on. As she spoke, a wave of resolve washed over her. Anne felt the puzzle pieces of her personal and professional life shifting from chaos into something tangible. Yet, just as the excitement of newfound purpose surged, an unexpected thought struck her. Was she brave enough to face the potential fallout from this decision, risking the stability she had built? With Jonathan's unwavering support beside her, she felt more empowered. But as she resumed her seat at the table, her phone buzzed with another text. There's more to this project than meets the eye. I think you should know. Anne's heart quickened. What was the true nature of this opportunity that had suddenly appeared in her path? The layers of uncertainty thickened again as she braced herself for the possibilities ahead. She struggled with the decision of how deeply she wanted to delve and whether it was worth jeopardizing everything she had just begun to build. The afternoon sun streamed through the window, casting a warm glow on Anne as she sat at the table, enveloped by the myriad of thoughts and possibilities. It had been a week since the conversation with Jonathan, a pivotal moment that ignited her ambition and brought her face to face with challenging decisions. The prospect of revisiting her former career tugged at her heartstrings. Each time she considered it, she felt the exhilarating rush of potential mixed with the pang of vulnerability. After much deliberation, she reached for her phone. Her fingers hesitated above the screen, but knowing that taking this step was crucial, she finally typed out a message to Clara. Let's discuss your project. I'd like to hear more. Sending it felt like a declaration of intent, a one-way ticket to an opportunity shrouded in ambiguity. Yet, beyond this decision loomed Jonathan's proposal, a role that required her unique perspective and capabilities. Each day spent thinking about it tightened the knot of excitement in her chest. She felt herself torn between the two realms, the reliable foundation she had started to build and the enchanting, albeit daunting, world Clara represented. Just as she mulled over these thoughts, Jonathan called, his tone buoyant. I'm brainstorming ideas for how we can collaborate. Your insights could be transformative. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Jonathan's enthusiasm sparked a newfound fire within her, each suggestion elevating her self-worth. As they spoke, the insecurities that had clung to Anne, memories of past failures and fears of judgment, began to evaporate. Anne, your perspective is invaluable. I've seen it firsthand in how you approach challenges. His words struck a chord, and for the first time, she fully embraced her potential. In that moment, she realized that accepting responsibility for her aspirations meant confronting her self-doubt head-on. She was no longer just a cleaner, she was a woman worthy of claiming her achievements. The clearer vision of her future began to unfurl before her, filled with the exhilarating promise of achievements yet to come. That night, as the kids nestled into sleep, and settled down to reflect on the past week, she had embarked on the journey of self-discovery, shedding the weight of doubt. Each conversation had drawn her closer to recognizing her strengths. The thrill of pursuing both professional avenues invigorated her, surrounding her in the sense of possibility. Days passed, and the rhythm of self-assertion became a steady pulse. She crafted schedules, mapped out opportunities, and even enrolled in professional development courses, honing her skills. With Jonathan's encouragement motivating her, she began to redefine her identity from the mother who merely dreams to the mother who dreams with purpose. One late afternoon, as she reviewed her notes from a workshop on project management, her phone vibrated with Clara's reply. Let's meet tomorrow at noon. I want to discuss the project in detail. I'll bring the contracts. The words ignited both excitement and apprehension. This was the moment she had been waiting for, the chance to blend her past with a purposeful future. The next day, she donned her best attire, the fabric a second skin that radiated confidence. As she stepped into the coffee shop, the scent of fresh brews and pastries filled the air, calming her nerves. Clara's demeanor was full of buoyancy, her presence vibrant as they sat at a table layered with papers and colorful charts. After exchanging pleasantries, Clara laid out the project details. The initiative aimed at community revitalization through events that could bring people together. "Your expertise in managing events would be instrumental in pulling this off," Clara asserted, eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. The conversation flowed seamlessly. And examined the contracts and project outlines, each word resonating with her spark of creativity. To her surprise, the project felt as enriching as the role Jonathan had offered. And began to articulate the ideas brimming in her mind, merging her two worlds into one cohesive vision. As they brainstormed, and felt the lines of doubt that had clouded her vision slowly begin to dissipate, she realized she could embrace both opportunities without sacrificing her identity as a mother or an individual on a personal growth trajectory. The idea of transitioning from one realm to another no longer felt like an obstacle, but rather a bridge linking her past to her present. That evening, Anne returned home with a newfound sense of clarity and accomplishment. She proudly recounted her day to her children, excitement bubbling beneath the surface. Their playful laughter filled the house with warmth, mirroring the joy she felt blossoming within herself. The next day, she decided to call Jonathan to share the news. "I met with Clara and discussed the project. I'm excited about the path forward in both your role and this new opportunity," she declared, her voice strong. "You've done incredibly well, Anne. I knew you had it in you." Jonathan's voice held a note of pride, affirming her evolution. Days turned into weeks as Anne adeptly balanced her responsibilities, achieving milestones in both projects. Those feelings of empowerment resonated like a constant anthem in her daily life, from making strategic decisions for events in her community to taking on new responsibilities at Jonathan's firm. The mingling of both worlds became her hallmark, crafting an unshakable sense of identity. But perhaps most importantly, Anne discovered that she had the capacity to model resilience and tenacity for her children through every action she took. She wasn't just reshaping her career, she was reshaping how they viewed ambition and strength. The legacy she was building would transcend the boundaries of her own story, weaving itself deeply into the fabric of her family. One afternoon, months after embarking on this journey, as the sun dipped below the horizon, and reflected on how far she had come. She had transformed not only her circumstances but also her self-perception. No longer did she shy away from who she was becoming, she embraced it with open arms, regaining her confidence and sense of purpose. The path she chose was undoubtedly fraught with challenges and uncertainties, but by critically engaging with her ambitions, she conquered her fears. The juxtaposition of her past with a future filled with dreams realized became not just a personal victory but a redefining moment of her professional narrative. With every step she took, and reinforced the truth within her, she was more than just a cleaner, more than just a mother. She was a woman whose tenacity triumphed in the face of doubt, forging a legacy of authentic fulfillment. This realization undoubtedly brought a resolute sense of closure, where her story completed its arc not as an end, but as a powerful beginning. Now is the moment for you to not miss out on future transformative stories that can inspire your journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel for exclusive emotional tales that can transform your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our community of growth seekers. Comment below with your thoughts and reactions, and share your theories about Anne's journey. Your voice matters. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to spark change together. Don't wait even one more second to dive into this adventure.